Farley Field Forest is a pristine natural area situated within the picturesque New England college town of Brunswick, Maine. It is owned and maintained by Bowdoin College, a top-ranked liberal arts college that prides itself on its environmental consciousness and progressive thinking. The forest is mixed in species and age composition and provides habitat for eastern white pines, red maples, Norway spruce, and numerous other trees and plants. The forest is also home to small mammals, birds, and deer. It is a place of peace for both Brunswick town residents and Bowdoin students, faculty, and staff, and is commonly used as a walking path for exercise or relaxation. Farley Forest also supports the Mare Brook watershed, which feeds into Casco Bay and eventually the Atlantic Ocean. The aesthetic values that it adds to Bowdoin's campus and the town of Brunswick cannot go unnoticed. Farley Forest borders the Pickard Field Athletic Complex that Bowdoin uses as its primary outdoor athletic facility. Numerous varsity teams enjoy the field, including rugby, cross-country, soccer, baseball, softball, field hockey, lacrosse, and track and field. Intramural and club athletes enjoy the complex as well. In total, around 400 varsity and club athletes use the complex, as well as hundreds of intramural athletes. As for the community, Brunswick High School athletes make use of the complex and regularly practice and compete on the fields. Neighbors to the fields walk their dogs in the morning or take part in recreational activities that include, but are not limited to, kite flying, jogging, and tandem biking. The forest is also a valuable lab location for certain Bowdoin classes, such as Professor Vladimir Duhovnikov and Kyle Martin's course, Forest Ecology and Conservation. We live in an ever-changing world, and it was only so long before Bowdoin College felt a need to update its athletic facilities. To meet the rising standards of NCAA Division III athletics and to keep up with divisional rivals, Bowdoin has recently proposed plans to expand and renovate the Pickard Field Athletic Complex and modify the surrounding Farley Forest. The college has set forth plans to introduce 21 new light towers outfitted with dark sky compliant LED lights. These dark sky compliant light towers will allow teams to practice and play games later in the evening and will reduce the number of 9 to 11 p.m. practice times. The college hopes to improve its facilities to attract recruits and improve its athletic standing. The proposal outlines plans to build spectator seating on the baseball and softball fields, as well as seating at the rugby fields. Press boxes will also be constructed. The grass, baseball, and softball fields, as well as an additional practice field, are set to be replaced with artificial turf, although it has not been communicated which turf the college will use. The installation of turf will allow for the easy removal of snow and ice in the spring and will ensure a drastic increase in practice time and home games throughout the season. Numerous concerns have been raised by the community regarding these plans. To accommodate for the shifting of baseball and softball fields, the college plans to remove roughly 4.5 acres of the Farley Forest. Additionally, the inclusion of light towers raises concerns about light pollution, and teams practicing and competing later into the night have neighbors worried about noise too. Perhaps most importantly, many members of the community and Bowdoin College are heavily concerned about the introduction of forever chemicals, such as PFAS, by the installation of artificial turf and its implication for the surrounding environment and the Mare Brook watershed. We interviewed various members of the community, including Bowdoin faculty and students, neighbors of the forest, and athletes who stand to benefit from the renovations to the field. Julia Kate Bradley, a varsity athlete on the softball team, shares her opinions on the college's plans.
I'm personally for these plans. I think it will give a great opportunity for baseball and softball since our seasons are cut very short. We often have to practice till 10 p.m. and then baseball practices till midnight during season, so it's going to give us a lot more room. During spring break, we have to fit 16 games into 2 weeks, which honestly totals up a lot of injuries on our team and a lot of overwork. So if we are able to play earlier in the season, I think it will be more beneficial just physical health-wise, where we won't get as many injuries, and also mentally we'll stretch out our season further than the 5 weeks it currently is at.
My name is Ryan Supple.
And how often do you use the Pickard Fields and surrounding forest?
Yeah, I use the Pickard Fields a lot. We do a lot of our workouts there for cross country. We do it in like the dirt area, in like the forest around the fields, and we have races there too. And then the actual fields, I go out there and play football with my friends a lot, frisbee or various other sports. Yeah, I love using the fields.
Do you think that the forest positively impact your running experience?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. That's always my favorite part of the cross-country course, when I go back into the woods and it's a little bit quiet and desolate. I can kind of be in my thoughts a little bit before I go out and see the crowd. I really enjoy the forest part.
How do you feel about the college's plans to take away some of those trees and add them to the fields?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I definitely feel like I have an attachment to that spot, and to get rid of that natural area, I think would take away from a lot of the beauty that we have on this campus, and particularly a lot of the athletics teams at Bowdoin, I think, really enjoy the aesthetics of that forest behind the field. So I think that would definitely be a loss for the college overall.
I would be very against the college implementing turf on the fields. Although I personally am not an athlete, I do frequent those fields often to smoke, and I think it would just ruin the vibe for me and probably most of the Bowdoin community.
How would you feel if those fields were cut down?
I'm so sorry, but I don't really care. I'm sorry.
How would you feel if those forests were cut down?
I mean, not great. I'd feel very sad because hiking is definitely one of my passions. I like being outside, hence being a part of the outing club, but it's also just a nice addition to the campus, so it'd be nice to keep them around, but yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Brunswick town resident Rebecca Morrill, a native of Brunswick and practicing naturopathic doctor, has voiced her opinions about the college's plans in a recent interview.
A major concern is their plan to put in 3 new artificial turf fields, and my understanding is most likely with the forever chemical PFAS, which is very toxic and harmful to humans and animals alike, and that's a concern of mine for Bowdoin, and sports teams and such using that, but also members of the community too. And I'm 9 months pregnant right now and about to have a baby, and my little one will be running around out there on the fields, and so that's a real concern of mine as a community member. A question to Bowdoin would be, are you all going to regret this in 5 years or 10 years when more research comes out about PFAS, but also about, gosh, it's really getting into the water system here and really affecting Bowdoin and the surrounding community.
Vladimir Duhovnikov, a forest ecology professor at Bowdoin College and resident of Brunswick, Maine, shares his understandings and concerns.
I think that Bowdoin has tried to explain the motivations of the campus. I'm not so sure that the vision for those changes has been communicated particularly well. I think that part of that is because the specifics are still not entirely nailed down. So as a result, there's some general confusion about the specifics. In this particular situation, there are obviously advantages to the campus, in particular from the perspective of athletics. I do think that that's where the primary focus and motivation is coming from. The community also can receive many benefits from this. Bowdoin's great about sharing its resources with the broader community, and so these athletic resources could be a real boon to community athletics. I do feel, though, that it's not all a win, and there are some trade-offs. The perimeter forested space and the trails that are involved are actually used not only by the broader community, but by many students, and not only athletic students. I think that we are doing a disservice to that portion of the campus population if we don't recognize and amplify that use as well. That should be part of this vision. So I think there'll be some cost to that. What one has to do is step back and think about the overall context. And if you think about all of the Bowdoin properties and how Bowdoin fits on the landscape, it is maybe not as scary a change as some people feel. Having said that, though, the unknowns are pretty high when it comes to the PFAS, and that's really something that we're taking kind of a gamble on, just because we're trusting that the science is there, and I'm just not convinced it is yet. So that's the one area where I am concerned. Otherwise, I think in an overall context, one can argue that it fits within its use range and maintains some level of sustainability.
Although we see the importance of improving Bowdoin's athletic facilities, as 4 out of 5 of us are varsity athletes, we believe that the college needs to reconsider certain aspects of its plan in order to protect the integrity of Farley Forest and accommodate the needs of the Bowdoin community. This perspective has allowed us to envision a plan that acts as a compromise between the needs of the college, the Brunswick community, and the environment. We will present our plan in this presentation.